Growing up in the 80s and 90s during one of the great times in wrestling, there was a lot of WWF merchandise to be had, from shirts to ice cream to posters and toys. Action figures to be specific. I absolutely loved wrestling action figures as a kid and even into my early teenage years, and even though I don't engage with them anymore, I do still collect the occasional special release. Now, before we start, I want to focus for the most part on the figures themselves and not the accessories like rings and weapons and such, or we'd be here all day. So, let's talk about WWF Action Figures. Back in the 80s, the WWF agreed to have LJN manufacture action figures based on WWF wrestlers. These figures first appeared as 8-inch tall, solid rubber toys. These were pretty cool, but you were also kind of limited with what you could do with them, as they came in pre-molded poses and did not have movable limbs. They released a series called Bendies, and these figures featured metal wire framing inside that could allow for the figure to be bent and adjusted into different positions. Another line by LJN was WWF Thumb Wrestlers. I applaud them for trying to be innovative, but come on, a toy where the purpose is to stick your thumb up the wrestler's lower back? These were completely hollow, and honestly, though they were durable, they felt quite cheap. LJN continued to create WWF toys until 1989, when they closed their toy division. Hasbro produced the next line of WWF toys from 1990 to 1994. While the LJN toys were rubber, these were made of hard plastic with movable parts. And while the LJN toys went for a more realistic look for theirs, Hasbro line had more of a cartoony look to them. These have also become quite popular with collectors, and certain figures still in box can go for hundreds of dollars. There were also prototype figures that were advertised but never released for one reason or another. The next toy manufacturer to produce WWF action figures was Jax Pacific, and these are the toys I'm probably the most familiar with, as this time period was the peak of my wrestling obsession. The Superstars line was the first to be produced by Jax Pacific, and while they featured arms and legs made out of a hard rubber that had some give to it, they also featured movable arms, legs, and torsos. What I liked about this line was that there were always many options for each superstar. I remember owning at least 3 different versions of Triple H. And while some of these figures started out not looking so much like their real-life counterpart, they did get a lot more realistic down the road. Titantron Live was a series of action figures that were released to go hand in hand with the Titantron playset. These figures had a small chip in them that would trigger certain entrance themes to play when a wrestler would be placed over a specific area of the playset. In 2003, the Ruthless Aggression series was released and remains one of the most popular lines of wrestling toys to this day. These toys were loaded with detail and featured 15 movable points. Among other lines, they also produced a classic Superstars line, which saw some pretty awesome renditions of superstars from the past. In December of 2009, the contract between the two companies expired and was not renewed. In January of 2010, a new toy line was introduced by the WWE to be manufactured by Mattel. These toys didn't change much from what we saw by Jax Pacific. These figures featured a hard plastic, many movable parts, and incredible levels of detail. Entrance Greats was a line released to showcase infamous entrance gear worn by wrestlers. With the cloth-like material that most of these feature, they can tend to look a little more like dolls. The WWE Legends line was released, but not without its fair share of criticism. While the detail was there, a lot of people felt that the faces hardly resembled the wrestler they represent. These were also more expensive than the other figures that were released at the time, causing more complaints about the line. In 2015, the WWE announced that they would once again work with Jax Pacific, but With Mattel having exclusive rights to the action figures until 2019, Jax Pacific will instead focus on other toys such as RC cars, costumes, and things of that nature. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Maybe we'll touch on this topic again down the road with WCW toys. Until next time, thanks for watching.